in the space, betwixt the space. Hello? Is anyone in there? Hello? Huh. This place is empty. Except for that whiteboard over there. And there's a table with a deck of cards. Guess there's only one thing left to do. Raise some money, tell some fortunes, and drop some knowledge. So pull up a chair, grab a pen and paper, and let's get ready for this special episode of the Strandager Haus. Oh, welcome, friends. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Simon, for the compliment. I worked hard on that intro. Thank you for coming to this special episode of the Strandager Haus. My name is Chris Geary, and in place of my alter ego, the Keeper, I will be your host tonight. Tonight's episode is dedicated to the frontline caregivers at Community Health Network in Indianapolis, Indiana. These wonderful human beings are working diligently to provide care to patients who are isolated away from loved ones as they fight COVID-19. All of them know the risk they expose themselves to each time they treat their patients. Our goal for tonight's stream is to raise money for one of the many ways that community takes care of their employees, and that is by raising money for the Greatest Caregiver Needs Fund. This fund has been around for a while now, and its function is to help employees who are facing an unexpected hardship. Due to the pandemic, money from this fund is being allocated to directly help with three main areas of need that our caregivers are facing: childcare, housing, and meals. Many of you are in the position our caregivers are. You find yourself with children at home, be it school closures or childcare closures. There is an added cost and stressor. This fund is set up to help with that. Some of our caregivers are being quarantined, and while they are still receiving their salary, even in quarantine, they are facing the added costs of maybe hotel stays away from their home if it's not equipped to keep them and their families safe while they're in quarantine. This fund is designed to help that too. And as we all have likely noted by now, the collective trauma we're facing during the pandemic adds a level of strain on each and every one of us. This too affects them. Medical staff are notorious for skipping meals to care for patients' needs, but during this time we need them healthy more than ever. This fund is focused on delivering meals safely to these caregivers free of charge, to provide take-home meal kits to take home or to take one small burden off their shoulders by providing them with the food for their next meal, and then to provide snack bars in the break rooms for the times they need an extra boost during their shift. As little as $6 can make an empty stomach full again through this fund. I know many of us are in a bind right now. I'm not asking you to put yourself out. Please take care of yourself first. But if you do have a little extra, consider giving. We have matching funds to help your dollar go further up to $1,100. And for every new follower up to 35 that either Wandering DM, the Opera Geek, or Fennicini received this week, I personally will donate $3 as a thank you for supporting these amazing streamers who have taken their time and made their streams available, their schedules available, and their hearts available to these caregivers this week. Thank you for listening to that, and check out chat throughout the night. I'll be posting links all night long as we have some fun. So let's kick this off with a fortune, because that's what this show's been all about. And we're going to start with one of Simon's characters, Simon's Dragon Age character. Simon, go ahead and give me a question that you have for your character in the chat, and I will see what the cards have to say. Hello, Cleric Accord. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your presence. Who's your Dragon Age character, Simon? What's her name? Harold? Awesome. And what does Harold need to know? What questions are lingering for them? Regarding the offer... Ah, that was made to Blackwall. Okay. And what about this offer vexes you? Oh, well, there we go. Let us find out what the cards have to say. Will the joining be a success, or will Blackwall perish? Well, hopefully we don't have any deaths going on here, but let's see. So, let's see what kind of spread are we going to use for this. Let's go with the joining Ace of Hearts. New beginning. Well, that sounds about right. And we're going to compare that to Blackwall here. Blackwall. Don't know a whole lot about Blackwall, but they are represented by the 4 of clubs. The 4 being a card of balance. The clubs being related to passion and creativity. It's the card of fire. So, what is it that's going to happen between them? Oh, I see the Divine card. We've got a 3 of Hearts. So we're continuing that Hearts there from the joining all the way through into what's bringing them together. So I'm guessing here that there is the possibility of some sort of divine intervention that'll be connected to this joining. And if it is successful, I see more clubs. King of Clubs, dominant figure. Looks like they did create a whole persona, a fake persona to survive. Okay. So, King of Clubs. If this joining is successful, I see a dominant creature or dominant person with a powerful passion, powerful creativity, fiery. And it will lead them to a new person in their life. Someone who will nurture and bring about the best out of them. So I don't see them perishing according to the cards. Yes, we have a question about a donation link. That is an excellent question. And let me get you that link right now. So, anybody that's looking to donate tonight, you can donate directly here as well. There's the regular link down in the panel. You can donate directly there. If you do, you can put in the notes that you are donating through the Wandering DM stream, just as a way for them to know where it came from, as we're attempting to track that. Also, Simon was generous enough to dedicate any donations that he receives through his channel, bits and subscriptions that will be going to the charity as well. So that is all lovely. If you do like to actually keep or make the most out of your cash, we do have $1,100 in matching that I mentioned earlier. And we have new followers. Bring your friends. If you don't have money right now, feel free to bring your friends. Get them to follow either Simon or Kelly or Fennicini, and I will donate on their behalf. And we've got some bonuses going on there. I also did promise that there would be giveaways tonight, and we have a handful of them. We've got 3 card giveaways, and we have 3 sets of dice. As I drop one of my cards. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the donation. Thank you very much, Cleric of Court. That is much appreciated. $20. That's the equivalent of 3 on-site meals, a little over 3 or closer to 3.5 on-site meals, and or almost it's over 2/3 of the way toward a take-home meal kit for a family. For $37, it would be a snack bar in the break room. All of it's good, Clerk of Court. No worries. It'll all get to the same place. We are grateful for everything that each and every one of you gives. Hello, Displacer Rat. Welcome, welcome. So, let's go ahead and while we are talking, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about my topic for tonight, which is a, whatchamacallit? Oh, yes, I knew this. I remember this from before. Didn't you stream, weren't you on one stream actually streaming from the ambulance? Was that you? I think so. Maybe that was another paramedic. Nope, not you. There was a paramedic I saw on stream once that was streaming actually from the ambulance. Yeah, I guess it was a slow shift, but it was kind of fun. They made a cameo in a show. But anyway, thank you so much. You know exactly what we're talking about then. So I'm going to actually shift gears for a second here, and then we'll come back and do another fortune. Let's talk a little bit about player engagement. I promised people that we would kind of do a number of things today, and this is one of them. And we've got the concept of player engagement. Player engagement can be broken down into 3 core concepts that you kind of want to keep in mind as you are trying to build up and bring in your players in a meaningful way that grabs their attention. So the first one that we have is actually motivation. And so motivation, while it is kind of straightforward when we think about it, motivation actually is broken down into 3 components itself, at least 3 that I like to talk about. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And these 3 elements that we have all kind of build on one another. So autonomy has a few different concepts to it that will kind of bring people in and really get them built into your game. And the first part of it is player agency. And I also tie into player agency a bit of respect. So what player agency means, it doesn't mean that they take over and control everything. That's not collaborative. That's not what tabletop RPGs are. But player agency is a lot about respect of the person, respect of their autonomy, their ability to be their whole selves at the table. So one of the things that we can easily talk about is kind of consent at the table. And people are usually very comfortable with collaboration and consent on the easy parts, where everybody's agreeing, everything's getting along, all that's great. Usually where people have conflict is when there's some sort of tension around a mechanic or something of that nature. Death, fumble mechanics, some form of embarrassment that is transpiring. I'm not talking about the clearly defined areas either, the lines that we should know not to cross, yet some people still do, and we are reminded of that, I would say, every month or two. However, some of these other aspects are what people consider to be gray areas. If there is no collaboration or consent related to death, fumbles, embarrassment, you're going to actually have this disjointed emotional connection going on. So you need to understand your players' pain points and be sure to create ways for them not to lose their agency. So if they get really attached to their characters and they're not the kind of person that does well with character death, That's something that you want to make sure that you build trust for before you jump into it. It is possible. It's not something that you have to avoid completely, but it does take into account a relationship at the table. So fumble mechanics are also kind of the same way. One of the things that I've always disliked about fumble mechanics is they seem to stop the narrative. Every time that I've played in a game and somebody rolls a nat 1 or they roll or whatever the mechanic might be, a glitch in Shadowrun, it's always something that is painfully impeding forward progress for the story. And or it's something that is basically you can hand wave away because people don't want to deal with it. Neither of those actually benefit the story. If you're going to have a mechanic like that and you're actually going to use it in your game, make it into something that's collaborative where the player can actually interact with it. So describe what the negative aspect is and then ask the player, how can this be used to move the story forward? Not to negate the fact that something was fumbled or something was failed, but how can they use that? Like, what do they see as a way forward to add to the story that you guys are creating in that moment? That's a way that you can actually collaborate on that. Death is just something that you kind of have to set as a ground rule. And what does that look like? And what kinds of death is not the same everywhere. Big TPKs in some sort of all-out endgame style battle are a completely different concept than random chance where, goblin with a critical hit from a sling and, knocks somebody over and they, the dice just are not in their favor. Those are two ends of the spectrum. Find some way to create or to understand what it is that your players are up for and what they aren't. And you can narratively create that however you want. So work that in. The one thing about collaboration that I really like to stress is that collaboration is not just flat out acquiescence to whatever the players want. What collaboration is, it's about being genuinely heard by everyone at the table. And without that, without actually being heard, you don't have collaboration. You have someone kind of, manipulating or pushing other people around. So we all know that role-playing games require some level of improv, and that's normal. Everyone has a different comfort level with that, skill level with that. However, the GM can employ a wide range of tactics to stall while you hear players out and incorporate their perspectives into the resulting effects, whatever they are. Ask people for more detail. You can even pause and say, well, hold that thought before we resolve that. Let's see what else is going on in the party and have other people work their way through it. And you can end up giving yourself enough time to think, because sometimes you get confronted with something you didn't expect. And if that's the case, find a stalling tactic to let your brain catch up and kind of soak in what's going on, and make sure that you are connecting with the parts of the players that you enjoy being around. And then the last piece that I actually want to point out about with respect is one of the feelings out there. There's 3 of them I point to, and respect is one of them. It only exists if both people feel it. This whole concept that came out of, I don't know where it came out of, but it came out of, you have to earn my respect, blah, 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 blah. That's, in my opinion, that's a power play. That's manipulative, and that does not create a healthy environment. Giving respect is how you build a relationship. If you want it. If you want to withhold respect, that's fine. But don't demand that someone else do something you're not willing to do. It's just not how it works. So, yeah. So you can create autonomy by setting the boundaries of what consent looks like and working with that. And then increase that player agency by amplifying that autonomy through collaboration on different things. And then, find a way to give respect. Feel comfortable with that. Be the one to do it first and see how much that actually changes the dynamics at your table. And if it doesn't, then you're probably at the wrong table. So, now that you've heard me ramble on about that, we're going to come back to mastery and purpose here in a minute. But before we do that, who in chat has a character that needs their fortune told? Somebody? Anybody? Okay, Cleric of Chord. Which character? Okay, Kavi? Or Kavi? Barbarian Changeling. Interesting. What does your character have on their mind? Their shifting mind. No worries. No worries. We've got no timetable, no rush. While Cleric of Chord is pondering the phrasing, let's talk a little bit about our giveaways. Let me grab a set of dice. It'll be the first set that we'll go ahead and give tonight. Let's go with... yeah, why not that one? It's the first one that I grabbed. So, we'll go with these suckers. This is... what was it called? Padded Jelly, I believe, by Tabletop Loot. The picture I posted on Twitter looks a little better than that. But let's see if I can find that picture really quick. Somewhere in here. There we go. There's the tweet where I put it. It is the second one. It has alt text that calls it out. And it is... so that'll be the first set we'll give away in this first hour. And then the first deck of cards we're giving away is our Stargazer set of cards. These were used when Viditya Valetti was on with Goblins in Space, a indie game about trying to reach Junktopia. And Zathura Gobthura was our visitor, our traveler. And they told the fortune of Zathura and whether or not Zathura would make it to Junktopia. So, those are the two pieces we're going to give away first tonight. Have I stalled long enough for you, Cleric of Chord? Seeking a great chained beast that, if unchained, will destroy the world again. Kavi argues they should stay chained. Others disagree. Or changed, sorry. That if unchanged, will destroy the world. Okay. Oh, so it should be chained. Okay. So Kavi's stance is it's for the betterment of the world, leave them chained. And the party, or some of the others in the party, are trying to find a way to unchain them. Do they want to destroy the world? I'm just curious. For anyone joining, We are supporting the caregivers at Community Health Network tonight. And you can support them with donations to the Greatest Caregiver Need Fund at the link I just posted in chat. We do have matching funds up to $1,100 to double your money. And we also have giveaways tonight. And can't be restored or reasoned with. Well then, I see. If you are unable to give at this moment, everyone, feel free to find some friends and come on over to the channel here at Wandering DM anytime this week, or you can hop over to The Opera Geek and visit Kelly Butler, and or you can check out Fennicini on Friday. And any new followers to those 3 channels this week, up to the first 35, and I'll donate on your behalf. $3 per new follower. So we have the Chained Beast, the Jack of Diamonds. The Jack is a force of zest, of energy. Diamonds of the land. They are, right now, seeing a new form of energy. One connected to emotions. I wonder if that's the party. But there is someone who will intervene in this circumstance. And that is a dominant figure of intellect. I'm not sure. Gotcha. They should try to reason with him. There is a dominant figure of intellect in your party, maybe a NPC, someone that Kavi knows. And that person is the bridge between your party and this beast. And it's going to be the path of reason. But the path of reason will lead to a new rage. Someone is going to have to take that rage. The only way to free that beast is going to be transferring that ever rage. Now, if there's someone that can handle it and not destroy the world, okay. Sure, cards won't tell me that. But they do tell me that it will have to be transferred. The rage itself won't go away. So in order to reason with it, the Aether says, you got to find a way to transfer the rage. A new vessel to hold that. Otherwise, you're right. Destroy the world. Alrighty. Welcome, Wasa. So good to have you here. Let's talk a little bit more about motivating our players. We started with player agency and respect, and we talked a little bit about a handful of factors that are involved there. The primary one being collaboration and consent, mixed with respect. Player agency comes from that level of respect, and we can achieve that by creating a collaborative environment that respects consent. Mastery is the next one. One of the things that I find is actually kind of frustrating to a lot of players is they don't always feel like their characters reflect the competence that the character sheet kind of expresses. So mastery does not, it's not perfection. That doesn't mean always rolling crits. That doesn't mean having like some sort of, base plus 23 with perception or something ridiculous like that. It doesn't have to be any of those things. But what mastery does require is it requires a level of competence. They need to feel like they are making some sort of progress. So there needs to be tangible progress. Now, this is something that's actually built into a lot of video games. Video games love this. That's why you see leveling bars. That's why you see different ways for people to track all kinds of stuff in video games. Because video game designers learned a long time ago that if you want to keep people dialed into your game, you give them things to track. You give them a sense of accomplishment with tangible progress. That's one of the reasons why, honestly, personally, I don't like 5th edition's but alternate rules for milestones. While I understand the minutia of giving out experience and then some of the arguments that have come from, well, so-and-so got this much and I got that much and somebody falling behind and all of that kind of stuff. It's an easy, tangible way for your players to track their progress. Now, that's just D&D, but a lot of games have something like that. Shadowrun has karma, variety. I mean, all of a sudden my brain went blank, but they have different ways to track progress. If you use milestones, feel free to do so, but build in ways for them to track their progress. How are they improving? And how can they see that show up on their character sheet like you would see a leveling bar in a video game? But you can always take it a step further. So it doesn't just have to be something visible. So you want to avoid scarcity models that will make people feel like there's only so much of something, unless, of course, that's what you're going for. You want them all to feel like there's only there's only whatever. But if you do that with everything, it's going to shift their ability to see progress and their ability to use what they're doing. You can avoid this by highlighting and showcasing both player and character strengths. Put people in positions to succeed. Set them up for something awesome to really shine. And we can do that through any type of advancement mechanic that's built in. It doesn't have to just be levels. It could be skills or abilities. As they increase, give them opportunities to use those. It could be like D&D's 5th edition's pretty popular. What are their new features, class features that come up? Give them opportunities where those things come into play. If they have a specialty kind of path that they've taken, provide chances for them to engage with those. And if they're not engaging with the ones that you've created, have some conversations with them about why those aren't the ones that draw their attention and kind of help find the ones that they're looking for. The other thing that you can do is shift how tasks are taken care of. Once, basically, as they become more experienced, allow tasks that once required checks to become mundane. If you do this, and they will feel more competent. You don't have to roll for that anymore because you've gotten so good at it. So it's just you're just going to know this baseline of information without having to roll or pull a card or whatever the game mechanic might be. By doing that, it gives them an in-game tangible thing to look at and say, wow, my character is improving. And they can see the results of that leveling. Nothing's more frustrating than being level 15 and feeling like your character is no different than level 5 because all that happened is it's now bigger monsters, but it's the same setup and it's the same level of success versus failure. Let them see how they've improved. Let them see the different things that have shifted their skill set up a notch. And you can do that through tangible progress. And then, the last thing that I do like to point out is that all of this is in the hands of the person who's creating it. So you can set people up in your game to run into situations where they can shine. That's sharing the spotlight concept. So let's go ahead and switch back to the cards. Who has a character that is in need of a fortune? Anybody? If no fortunes, Who has a question related to either mastery or autonomy that we talked about so far? While I stare into the... Oh, there we go. What's your opinion about mastery of a system? What do you mean by mastery of a system, Simon? Oh, I like that, Cleric of Chord. That's a good way to kind of show how your character has a certain level of competence with their abilities. Are we talking about mastery of the game system? Like somebody who, like, how well do they know the system themselves? Oh, okay. So rewarding experience for players that understand the system versus those who don't. So about the game system then. It depends on the kind of engagement you're looking for. I think that's a carrot and stick kind of motivator. It is extrinsic. It definitely has its value, and it can work for certain ends. I don't believe that it is a good go-to, but it can lead people to be a little more invested in the rules rather than just showing up. Showing up is like 90% of the battle, though. I mean, schedules seem to be the thing that kills almost every single group that we talk to. However, mastery of the system needs to be. It can be incentivized, but it also needs to be a choice. And if the gap becomes too big, too great for those who choose not to be a part of that kind of mini game inside of the game, it will create like stratification between the players. So there will be those that do it and those that don't. And if that's reflected in the statistics, in how hard they hit, how well they can accomplish things, you're going to have those players that feel like they're being just pushed to the margins and are just kind of along for the ride. So you'll want to watch that and kind of temper that. And if they're not engaging with it, ask them, like talk to them about it. Like, what is it that that will get them to engage with that? If they don't care about those things, is there something else that will help them better understand the nuances and the crunchiness of a game, so they can take full advantage of it? Or maybe they just don't want to play that style of game. And you can then reconsider what games you're playing together, or their seat at the table. Not asking them to leave, but say, hey, this game is a crunchy game, and this is the intent. Hopefully you're having that conversation up front, though, kind of like the session 0 norming of expectations. The style of game that people play, the tone, the themes, all of that should be kind of set from the onset if you want to make sure that people will engage. Otherwise, you get a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. You can have some misunderstandings. You can have some disengagement. What you don't want is active disengagement. The people that show up because they feel compelled to by some sort of like social norm, but don't actually want to be there. You can find that through a variety of reasons or a variety of ways. The classic one people talk about is the person who's always on their phone. Well, I'll tell you right now, as someone with ADD, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not engaged. But it can for some people. They are totally tuned out. they're surfing social media, they're talking to their girlfriend, or boyfriend, or whatever. That totally can happen. But yeah. But you gotta kind of find that balance. What kind of game do they want? And it should be a collaborative choice to participate in that. And then also, if some people are into it and others are not, you might want to put a time limit on it. That's one of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way. I've acquiesced to some games, and they went longer than my interest allowed. And we ended up having a rough conversation about how the game just wasn't fun anymore for some of us. And I think it just went too far. We tried to turn it into a campaign, and it really should have been, a set number or a set story arc. We're going to do this story arc, and when we're done with that, we're done with this particular group of characters. But yeah, do you feel like that answered your question, Simon? For anyone new in chat, we are doing some fundraising for Community Health Network, and you can learn more about the Greatest Caregiver Fund at this tweet longer post I created. It also has a donation link in there. And you can find yourself some more details there, and also on Community Health's page. The big thing that we're focused on right now is feeding people. However, that same fund also helps with child care and housing for those employees who are under quarantine right now. So, thanks for that, Simon. All right. Does anybody else have a character that needs their fortunes told? Or and tell your friends in 5 minutes at 8:48 we are going to we're going to do the first dice giveaway. So, or don't tell them if you don't want them here for it. That's perfectly fine too. I'm going to tweet about it though. (8:48 p.m. Eastern Daylight). Bang. There you go. You have a half-elf rogue, Wassa. Okay. That's in a solid pickle. Tell me all about... Okay. Tell me about this quandary that your rogue is in. And for those of you that are wondering, the cards I'm using tonight are an antique set of cards that I found from an antique store. Complete set of 54, and they date to the early 1900s. So they're not super old, but old enough. Thanks for setting up that repeating link for me, Simon. I appreciate it. State of crisis between a matter of duty and a matter of the heart. Ooh. All right. So, let's see here. Let's start. Your character is trying to rationalize this, I'm guessing. Some sort of balancing of logic. That's what the 4 of spades typically stands for. And there we go. What's the matter of heart? Because this crisis seems to have a lot of emotions to it. And they're deep emotions. The 8 is the number of constancy, commitment, eternity even. Okay, duty, pledge to the guild. Friends must... Ah, so... how deep does that friendship run for your character? I'm guessing here, because we've got an ace of diamonds, there's 2 directions that could go. Ace is new beginnings. Diamonds is, in this case, I'm leaning towards wealth. That's what I'm seeing here. New beginnings with wealth. Could be the friends that are going against the duties to the guild. Guild is where your character finds its funds. However, going against them might lead to a promotion, and that might also be a new beginning of wealth within the guild and status. And we are coming up with lots of diamonds here. There's going to be a reaping of wealth. Because of that card, I'm really feeling like it's probably the friends. Because it sounds like your friends, your rogue's friends are probably going to be adventurers of some sort. They're looking for the big score. That 9 is the big score. If your rogue succeeds with that big score, it will lead to a new connection, a new friend, a new friendship, something deeper. Oh, nice. Surprising to the character because he thought his loyalty to the guild was absolute, and yet, oh, love the drama. Love the drama. So is this group chasing a big score? I'm curious. You've piqued my interest, Wassa. And it is 8:48. So, everyone who's in chat, feel free to type in !jelly if you would like to win the set of dice. The fear comes from the big score. Turn to a new leader. Oh, yeah, that would be huge. Nice. Unsurprising. Oh, a usurping of the throne in a sense. Oh, nice. Yeah, that would be a big score. That'd be a really big score. Well, it looks like it can happen, but they're going to have to follow those emotions. The heart leads you to that big score. Or at least that's what the cards think. I'm going to give this a minute to see if anybody else wants in on these dice. And by doing that, we're going to pop back over. Maybe. Nope. My whiteboard went away. Dang it. Well, we will not have that written up there then. I accidentally ruined that, or closed that window. So instead, we will talk a little bit about it. The last one is purpose. Purpose is the core and driver of player engagement. That's the thing that we all need to understand. The other thing that we need to understand when we're running games is that we cannot define a player's purpose for them or for their character. When we try to, it becomes artificial. It doesn't have the same value. It doesn't have the same power. They need to conceive of their purpose and to embrace it. And the reason for that is that purpose comes from belief, and belief is actually connected to our limbic brain, which has no capacity for logic or reason or language. So you can't talk someone into a purpose. They have to feel it. They have to connect to it in a belief-related or emotionally related way. So tying PC's strengths and identities into the plot is a common way many GMs create connections for their players, and those are the types of connections. Sorry, I skipped a step. No, sorry. Accepting their purpose, or accept their purpose and use it. So let them define it, have them bring it out, and even reframe it when necessary to keep them engaged. And what I mean by reframe is don't manipulate it. But sometimes someone might come to you and say, my character's purpose is to steal the, crown jewels or something like that. And it's a very narrow scope of purpose. And be like, okay, well, what happens after that? That would be my question to them. What happens after your character steals the crown jewels? Or gets caught and thrown in prison? Like, what's their goal then? Or just go with success, because failure is always going to kind of be reactive. So with success, what happens when you succeed? What do they do then? And kind of lead them and help them reframe it from focusing in on something like stealing the crown jewels to maybe it's defying authority is their purpose, defying unjust authority. And that's why they want to steal the crown jewels, a big FU to the people in charge. Or it could be they want to be rich and then find out why. Okay, what is it that makes you want to be rich? And, reframe their purpose in a way that's actually something you can tie into the plot to keep them engaged and to use. So obviously, yes, there are going to be ill-fitting purposes. Some players will bring a purpose to a game that goes against everyone else's in the party. This tension can be good if all players consent to it, but if not, purposes must be reimagined. Otherwise, you're going to have a tension that will actually work against and kind of wear down the people's desire to be there and wear down their engagement, because they won't be able to feel like they're fully present with you. So to recap, when we're looking at engagement, motivation is the first area, and motivation is broken down into autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, give them player agency, build that up through collaboration, consent, and of course respect. Mastery is not about perfection. It is about tangible results. Can they see it in their character progression, mathematically or however on the sheet? Can they see it in their actions in-game? That in-game play is the one that is so vital. Do they feel more competent? Like Cleric of Chord's example of no longer having to roll to create a potion of healing for their character. Now they're just creating to see how many they actually do create. And that is one way to go ahead and do that. All right, so next I am going to roll for a winner. I have 2 participants for the dice. And Cleric is low, and Wassa is high, and I rolled a 1. So, Cleric of Cord, you are the winner of the Patted Jelly dice. If you message me either Discord or Twitch or Twitter with an address that I can mail them to, I will get them in the mail to you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the donation earlier as well. All right. Does anyone else in the audience have a character who needs their fortune told? Yes, no, maybe so. Then let's move on to some... does anybody have any questions about autonomy, mastery, or purpose? Feel free to hit me up in chat with any questions that you might have. As I am tweeting out more to let people know that one set of dice is gone. Ooh. Tick tock. Like the ambient sounds. All right then. Let's talk a little bit more question. Okay. Question about motivations in-game for characters. Excellent. What's your question, Wassa? While Wassa's typing up the question, we are doing a charity stream for Community Health Network. We are raising money for their Greatest Caregiver Needs Fund, which helps fund those incidental needs that come up, those unexpected costs. And right now, they're being focused on our frontline caregivers who are being met with additional costs and additional challenges right now. So $6.50 provides a meal for them, safely delivered to their unit, and $28 will provide a meal kit, take-home meal kit for them to have one less thing to worry about when they go home, and they'll just be able to take care of it themselves. And $37 will put a snack bar in their break room, so they can. That's good for up to 25 caregivers, so they can get a boost. Are there methods to encourage new players to find that purpose and motivation if they choose to create a character that's very outside of the main world of the story? Yes. A lot of times, so do you have an example of what you mean by outside the main world of the story, though? Are we talking like from a completely other dimension, or, you know, an anime style character in a Tolkien style campaign? Or is it more of a like fringe, so it's set in, I don't know, Waterdeep, and they're from Chult kind of thing? And while Wassa's providing that follow-up for me, The fund will also help with childcare costs, as a lot of us are experiencing kids at home that would normally be in school or childcare during this shelter-in-place circumstance, and help defer the housing costs for caregivers who are in quarantine. Or at least that is in their mind. I guess it works with collaborating with the player. Yeah. So collaboration is definitely one thing. Find out what it is, like why they created that character. I would start there. I'd be like, hey, what excites you about this character? What are the things that really make you, like, motivated you to create the character? Tap into that motivation and tie it into the plot in some way, shape, or form. Don't force it, like saying, oh, well, that would be this in this world. Let it be its own thing. Don't try and take it and create it as yours for your plot. But okay, yeah, similar to Waterdeep and Jolt. Yeah, so if they're coming from a place that's far, far away and not really and ill-fitting to the setting, the part of the world that you're in. You find out what it is that drives them about that. What is it that excites them? And then why would they want to be here? Like, what brings them here? So that's where I would begin. And once you get those answers, you can work those in to what's going on in the plot, dropping in little hints, little Easter eggs for them to pick up on and feel like their character's expertise is being utilized. So maybe the plot itself calls for, I don't know, some sort of puzzle down the road. Have it be in, I don't know, some sort of ancient language from the area that this one character that's out of place be written in. So, all of the runes are foreign to everyone else except for this person because they have a connection to that culture. Or maybe the words make sense, but the phrase itself is lizard folk from a world that is basically Jurassic Park. Okay. Yeah. Work in the cultural pieces like that. That's what I would do. The things that excite that character or that player about that character, give them the chance to shine with that kind of knowledge, the backstory that really made them, excited about creating it. And I agree with Cleric of Cord. Far Traveler background is great for PCs like that. Absolutely. It kind of helps give a description, even if they don't use like you can swap out the skills or proficiencies, or not the skills, the proficiencies that are attached to it to make it fit whatever culture they come from. Feel free to tweak that, but just to kind of give that sense of out of place, and ask them, is this what you're feeling? Is this what you want to be a part of? And yeah, but usually if somebody's doing that, it's because they really, really dig that concept at its core. They may not have all the details that are like culturally relevant to that Jurassic Park world. It might have just been like, I want to play a lizard folk that's from a Jurassic Park world because that would be effing cool. Awesome. What are the things that are effing cool about it? And then just ask them questions and let them be creative. So, okay. So what does food look like there? Like what kinds of things, what kind of cooking, what's their favorite dish? What kind of tools and implements do they like to make? What's their prized possession? What is the thing that they cherish most and why? I once played with a friend of mine, and he played a character who, the culture he came from, silver was the most valuable commodity, and he would literally give up gold for silver, and because it had cultural relevance. And he ended up with like a scale mail suit made out of like silver coins. and because he knew that when he went home, he would be lauded as like the richest and the most prestigious. And it was quirky but fun for him, and it didn't harm the plot. It didn't ruin anything. It actually became, for a lot of the players, what started as kind of joking to some of them became like they started looking out for him and getting him items that would be in line with that kind of stuff. So you're very welcome, Wasa. But yeah, it's that connect to those things, and those connections are important. So speaking of connections, belonging is the next piece of engagement. So we talked about motivation. Belonging is next, and the last piece of engagement is hope. But we'll get to that at the end. So belonging requires connection, recognition, and trust. Those are the three core concepts that need to be developed for belonging to exist. Connection to the plot, to other players, to the characters are some of the necessary elements for creating a sense of belonging. Most GMs understand that. We try to find something to tie them to. An Aarakocra that would skewer mice on his rapier and snack on them. Yeah? Definitely. Like, that's the kind of thing that stands out, and how people lean into that, and how they push against it will really shift how that player feels at the table. So those are the kinds of things that can be great ways to kind of bond. So one way that you can actually pull out more from people is tying their player characters' strengths and identities into the plot. So, and that's kind of what we just talked about with your question, Wasa, was how do you take that identity, that character identity, and tie it into the plot? Make their culture, their identity relevant to what's going on. You can do the same thing with the Aarakocra. I mean, the skills, the strengths, and things like that, make sure that there are things that require someone who can fly. You can definitely layer that in. That's pretty straightforward. But then there's also cultural aspects to it. So the snacking on mice is a really cool touch for like role play pieces, and it becomes a memorable kind of element. But you can take it even a step further and create deeper connections to other aspects of them. But the key to making any of that work, though, is that the players must also buy into the plot and setting. So if you don't ground them in the plot with meaningful connections to the setting and to the events that are happening in a very living, breathing world around them, they're just showing up for experience. And while that can be fun, and that doesn't create that sense of belonging. If you want them to show up every single week and never want the campaign to end, it's because they felt belonging as a player at the table and as a character in that setting. So tying that character to the plot, to the setting in meaningful ways can definitely help. But that setting has to be living. It has to feel alive. One easy way that I found to do that is create a set of events that are going to happen no matter what. That doesn't mean that the players can't stop them, but that they're on a time frame. And if the players decide to go left at Albuquerque, it's going to happen anyway. And there may or may not be consequences that they ever see, but these things still happen. And they circle back around 4 levels later, and they're like, wait, where did this city go? Why is it ruins now? And they investigate, and they find out, oh, that all trails back to, this one thing that we heard about. Or I thought this place had a different ruler, or I was told to come to this bar, and it doesn't exist anymore. Well, it got bought out by somebody. It could be as minor of a plot point or as major of a plot point as you want it to be. But there should be things that are constantly going for them to see an ever-changing world, because that's what makes it feel alive. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to map out all the minutia. Just give them enough. Create a certain set of them. and set them up, ahead of time for each story arc or even for each game session, and then kind of layer them in and let them see things unfold. Because it's not WoW, where the quests will wait until you get around to them, and the only thing that changes is the amount of experience. That's not what bonds people to it. So, anyway. So let's talk about cards again. I noticed that we may or may not have more people in there, so are in the chat. So we're hovering around 5 people right now, and I think a lot of you have already asked your questions, but you can always ask more if you have more games and more characters. There is no limit there. This is all about fun and joy and celebrating those who support us through their work as caregivers on the front lines. So let's go ahead and send a nice little gift off to you all. Go ahead and hit me up with your question, Simon. And while I do that, today in the present, may your thoughts be those that will carry you forward, the ones that will stick with you. May you have reflections of things that help you be your best self, and carry that forever with you forward. Make those your constants. May your past be the ace, the new beginnings. Do not ruminate on past mistakes, on past follies. Let those go and focus on being the stronger, better you that you can be. See that person first, mentally. So that way your future is a new self that is healthy and strong emotionally and mentally. That is my blessing for all of you. Let's say that I have a blank canvas for an upcoming character. All I have at the moment are the words Gentleman Thief. Is it possible to have a reading on what their personality or life could be? Absolutely it is. I can make that happen for you. So let's see. Gentleman Thief. Can you give me anything about the setting? Is there magic in the world? I guess is the first one. And let's see. How is it Earth adjacent or is it completely fantasy? Oh, Castle Falkenstein. Okay. Yeah, I can totally run with that. So, your character, Gentleman Thief. Well, the 9 of Diamonds. Born into wealth. That's what we have there. Your character is one who knows abundance of this world in many different ways. The 9 connects them to strong, powerful forces. Could be status, could be whatever it is that you want there, but it is the unseen elements of their life, the stars that guide them, the wishes for them upon their birth by their family, etc., etc. Those are things that have strong guiding influence to them. Their health is one of intellectual nurture. They are one who likes to reflect and analyze when they are when they need to kind of recharge. They're drawn to others who do that as well, and maybe that's where they learned it from. So peace and quiet, things of that nature, they help them recharge. Though a thief, Simon's Twitch is acting up, and I will recap all of this when I get to the end. So we've got a thief born into wealth, knowing of abundance, likes to reflect in order to recharge, peace and quiet, something like that. They are someone who likes the sentiment of gifts, because material wealth means little to them because they can steal it. And their closest relationship is going to be to an individual that they are close to, someone who understands material wealth. It could be an appraiser, it could be a fence, it could be a noble, but someone who understands wealth. That's their, I wouldn't say their best friend, but it's an influential person in their life. They're, let's see, the Three of Hearts here. Their greater community is one that has some sort of code. It's a code that speaks to them emotionally. Could be a thief's code. It could be some other kind of setup. It could be religious, but it has some sort of belief system to it, some sort of tenets that it follows. Could even be personal, tying back to that reflective piece. And again, we have the three. This time is one of passion, one of, no, Three of clubs here is also going to be belief. Yeah, they're drawn to a purpose, something that they really want to accomplish. And they are gifted in that way in order to get it done. So, as a recap, according to this spread, if you had a blank canvas, it would be a gentleman thief who is born into wealth, like some sort of quiet or intellectual recharge. Could be reading, could be reflection, could be anything of that nature, but something that's quiet, nurturing process. They like to give from sentiment or receive from sentiment because material goods, they can always steal. So material items have little value to them. And their closest, one of their closest connections is someone who understands material wealth very well. Like I said, it could be someone who has a lot of it, like a noble or an appraiser or a fence. Could be another thief. So maybe a mentor that they learned from. And then we've got these belief back to back. 3 is the divine card. Oftentimes it is religious. It doesn't have to be. It definitely is connected to some belief of something deeper, greater than themselves. And their path is fueled by a purpose, a passionate purpose with that clubs. So, does that give you enough to work off of, Simon? And for those of you in chat and anybody who's watching this stream, that is a quick and we'll say Cliff Notes version of Omen's Rising's character generation system that is based on cartomancy. And there are 6 positions there, each one correlating to a different part of your character. And you basically tell your character's fortune in order to create your character. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about belonging. And we have connections between players, PCs. Know that those are going to be up to the players. Like, we can't force that. We can encourage it through a variety of options. Obviously, we've run into that before. And some of the most consistent ways to create connections between people, though, are shared experiences, shared motivations, shared goals, and shared beliefs. So if you do want to encourage this, find or encourage them to come up with things that they have in common in their past. It doesn't mean that they have to have been in the same place at the same time. But did they go through something that was similar where they can empathize with one of the other characters? Do they have a similar motivation in life, motivation for what they're doing? Do they have a goal, a similar goal? Or do they have similar beliefs, things that drive them? And I'm not sure how many people are left in chat any longer, but I do have a deck of cards to give away. We have our Stargazers from Zathura Gobthura's Visit to the Strandager House. And we will go ahead and give those away here right now. Go ahead and type !Goblin into chat, and we will get you a deck of cards used in Strandager Haus Season 1. And that was from Viditya Valletti's appearance on the show. An indie game designer. You can find his game on itch.io. And I'm looking for the link right now. If you want to find your own path to Junktopia, which was a lot of fun. Righty. Where is it? Space Goblins. There we go. We've got Space Goblins. And a link for it. Yes, Simon, of course you can enter. I can also pull these cards out and you can see them. And that is what they look like. Were a very fun deck to use, and Space Goblins was a really fun game to learn about. It's $12 on itch.io right now. You can pick it up there and support an indie game maker. Viditya was so much fun to have on. So excited. That was great. So, continuing on, let's talk about some other connections that we can make, giving people a little bit more time to enter in. If anybody is popping into chat right now, you can type !goblins and win yourself a set of cards used on Season 1 of the Strandager Haus. Connections to characters often require the characters to be organic, dynamic characters. Flat characters, while relatable at times, often lose the interest of players. So one of the things that you always want to, if you want your players to engage with your NPCs and to engage with even other player characters, is they do need to be living, organic characters in and of themselves. This includes, and probably is most important for villains. One of the things that has always kind of been a disappointment for me are villains that they're just, they're motivated by one thing. It's the evil whatever, right? The big bad evil guy is not a trope I like to encourage. That doesn't mean that you have to create villains that are, the ones that everyone kind of relates to and pities, or, they're not really all that bad. Or, wow, they're just misunderstood. Like, no, it doesn't have to be that sort of thing. However, what we do want and what we are hoping for is living, breathing characters that people can interact with. So one of the ways that you can do that is by giving them motivations, giving them purposes that are beyond just doing bad, and also giving them strategy, having them run away, having them send in spies, use misdirection, plot, scheme. Nemesis is one of the most underused and underrated tool in a GM's chest of tools. Because those types of villains can enhance that purpose and connection that players have to the game, and they can inspire growth and mastery in those characters over time. When they're defeated, they will amplify recognition, which is the next thing that I'm going to talk about. Beating, something that has a bunch of experience points and a bunch of loot is one form of recognition, but money has a tendency to beget money. Anytime that people get excited about money, after a while, $20 doesn't mean anything, and it needs to be $50. And then 50 is like, and now it needs to be 100. So on and so forth. It constantly inflates. The same goes for loot. The same goes for experience points. What doesn't change, though, is that emotional payoff of defeating your nemesis, of defeating that person that was out to get you for so long. So we've got 2 entrants again, and that is awesome. And we will go ahead and see. We'll go with Simon Lowe and Wasa High. And we have, because, what do we got here? There's the button. And we've got a 1 again. So, Simon. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And thank you for participating. I will get those in the mail to you. The next time that I go to the post. So there will be a little bit of a delay in the mailing, not because of anything other than social distancing right now. I try to limit the number of times that I go out, but I will get them to you. So I see a couple more, I see some fluctuations in the number of people in chat. Any of the people popping back in, or if you are new and popping into the stream, welcome. We have a number of giveaways tonight, some dice to give away, and some cards to give away. And we also are giving away some knowledge on player engagement and fortunes to your OCs. So if you want a fortune for your original character, for one of your games, maybe it's an NPC, if you are a GM, ask the question in chat, and I will see what the cards have to say for you. Otherwise, we can talk about recognition. So, recognition. Recognition comes in many forms. We talked about loot already and leveling. Titles and reputation is another form of recognition. There are a bunch of them. You will find all kinds of recognition. Don't worry, Wasa, I've got 2 more sets of dice and 2 more card giveaways. Stick with me, and I'm sure you're going to win something. Loot, like all material things I kind of mentioned, has relative value to what it gives or provides. So a healthy economy of loot, though tedious, is important to keep loot valuable as a form of recognition. When that economy of loot kind of goes haywire, you're going to have to find a different form of recognition to really tap into your players' motivations. Titles and reputations only matter if they have tangible in-game results. This has been driven home to me by a bunch of players and other GMs that I've played with. Associations with organizations only matter if that has some sort of tangible result in-game. It doesn't have to have it every game all the time, but it does need to show up often enough that they feel like that kind of thing matters. The same thing goes for any sort of title. Leveling is obviously a form of recognition that is intertwined with mastery. We talked a lot about that already. Tie their experience progression not just to the in-game skills and abilities, but also to tangible forms of recognition. Will they receive a title or reputation at a certain progression point or level? Definitely look into those things and start building them in and hint at them through the role play. Give them something to look forward to. Foreshadow these other ways that they will achieve something. Especially if you're looking at, I just lost the term. Not experience points, but milestones. When you're looking at milestones, that's a great way to do it. So build in some sort of story arc where once they reach a certain whatever and they do a certain thing, they not only achieved a level or a certain level, maybe it's a couple of them, but they also achieved this title or this status within whatever group they're a part of. The other thing that can be done is, grant items for proving themselves, even if they didn't know that that there were trials going on. We see it all the time in myths. We see it in a variety of other like movies and stuff. Somebody comes out of wherever, and they give someone some sort of item of status, item of power. It has some sort of significant meaning to that character, though. And what we do find is that they have it has more impact when it's, I wouldn't say unexpected, but when it's not guaranteed. Because then it feels earned. And we definitely want that to increase that recognition. So regardless, you should find ways to tie your progression, regardless of how you choose to do it. Find ways to tie that progression directly to some form of recognition that matters to your players, which, yes, means you will have to get to know them in order to be able to determine what that is. So please, please, please know your players. Know what drives them, which leads us to trust. Just like respect, it only exists if both people feel it. That's one of the three. Well, the second of the three. The last one we're not going to talk about in this regard. That is love. But trust only exists if both people feel it. You have to give respect first by modeling, or give trust first, by modeling vulnerability. That is an important path to fostering necessary vulnerability for trust to exist. What that means is it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, hey, let's go look that up. It's okay to say I was wrong. Other types of vulnerability is to say, hey, these are the things that I'm not comfortable with in my games because they're my limits. It's, that part where you can show your humanity in a way that matters. And then the other thing that you can do from there is when their actions shift the plot, trust that they are trying to enhance the narrative, not undermine you. Sure, you can have some players that are going to do stuff to kind of troll you. That definitely does happen. But if you model the engagement that you seek by collaborating with what they add, build upon it, using it, making it part of the narrative in some way that still presses the story forward, you're going to end up creating more trust, because they're going to realize that regardless of what they do, you still care about their contributions. And that builds trust. And then when they bond with unintended NPCs, which is something I hear about all the time, trust that they find belonging in the seeds that you planted there and enhance that. I had a game of Castle Falkenstein where the players just decided to bond to this bit NPC. And so I turned Dante into a major plot point. Not because I had that planned. I had something else kind of planned, but I also leave a lot of openings in how I make my plots out and how I kind of script them out, so I can insert different characters wherever I need to, or different items, or whatever it is, to make sure that I'm tapping into the things that my players find kinship with, find connection to. And that versatility allows me to really kind of lean into the things they give me and model that collaborative spirit that I want to see and want to get from them. And so we're all motivated at the table. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and give away another set of dice. And Wasa, there's two sets there, and you can find them. Actually, those colors do not show up at all. They are much better than that. You're going to have to find that tweet again, wherever it went. Share that link again for you. Because they're much prettier dice than that. Let me find them. Oops. There's the thread. There's the dice. There's the link. Check those out. And the second one is the Pad Jelly, the Cleric of Chord one. We've got the green and yellow swirl, and then we have the, I believe that's called, that wasn't the Venom ones. What does the alt text say? Why can't I see my alt text? Well, I can't see my alt text now. But they are another set from Tabletop Loot. I think it's something Shadow, but maybe that gives a better look. Kind of. They're sparkly and swirly inside. Anyway, it'll be a you choose of the two for this giveaway. So we're going to call this our player agency giveaway. So if you type !agency into chat, you can be a part of the giveaway for dice. !agency is the key. Feel free to join the giveaway. And we're going to talk, while that's happening, about hope. Hope is the last piece of player engagement. And hope is made up of two things, optimism and belief. Optimism is important for hope to exist, and optimism is not the same as positivity. Especially it's not the same as positivity at all costs, or the silver lining mentality. Silver lining is actually dismissive of people's frustrations. You know, when somebody says, oh, this bad thing happened, you go, well, at least such and such didn't happen. You find yourself dismissing whatever emotional state the other person is in. So what you need to do in this case with positivity or with optimism is recognize that it's not the ignorance of negative elements, it's the acceptance of negative elements. However, optimism sees the good first and is accepting that the good won't always outweigh the bad, but that it must be celebrated nonetheless. So when it comes to optimism and building that at your table, you need to notice, like, when things don't go the way you had them planned, lean into them and totally understand that there is the opportunity for something good to come out of it. And there are going to be small things that you can latch on to that your players are really going to, help move the narrative forward. And when you do that, you will find that they will start to see the positive first as well. Creating optimism takes intention, and it takes intention related to the decisions to detail positive elements and give them equal weight to the negative, the problems, the challenges that we tend to build plots around. If you're always stopping something that's horrible and you're never taking time to celebrate the things that are great, you're going to create a game that struggles to maintain optimism, to maintain hope. There has to be celebrations, whether that be a gnomish nut harvest festival in a treetop city along the way from place to place as they are traveling. It can be side quests like that. It can be something as simple as having your players mark down their characters' birthdays and taking time to celebrate those in-game as the calendar moves along. It can be a variety of things, big and small. It doesn't have to be huge triumphs that are always the celebration in the end. But it definitely does need to occur in order and have equal weight to the plot than just the negative, the problems, the challenges. We want something to overcome, but we also need things to celebrate, and they don't have to be intertwined, I guess is the point that I'm trying to get across. Belief, the reason that I actually point out belief is that belief controls behavior. Without understanding how belief works and how belief affects your players and how belief affects how they play their characters, you cannot create hope. It can't exist if your players don't believe that it can exist. So players must buy into the why of your game. Why are they here? Why are they playing it? What is their purpose? for being there. So tap into that why, because they will give you so much more with every moment of role play, with every moment of every dice roll, every decision that they make, every strategy they create will definitely amplify if they buy in. And it takes a lot more. And Wasa, you are our entrant, and there are, of the two, which one are you looking for? Green and yellow swirl, or I wish I remembered the name of it. I think it's in the tweet. No, it's not. I put it in the alt text and it didn't show up. So that didn't work. But I'll find the name. They're fancy, sparkly. One's sparkly, one's swirly. We'll go with that. Sparkly or swirly, Wasa. And while we wait for Wasa's answer, does anyone have any questions for the cards? And, well, actually, I have a question for Simon. Is that Gentleman Thief connected to another charity coming up? Excellent. So, for those of you that don't know, tonight we are streaming for charity. Oh, no, it's not? Okay. Is that for the idea that you were telling me about for the summer? For July? Gotcha. You're only running production next week. So it'd be for the summer. Excellent. So for those of you that don't know, this is a charity stream tonight. We are working to support those who support our communities, specifically those at Community Health Network. You've got it, Wasa. I will get the sparkle ones to you. You know how to find me. Get me a mailing address that I can ship it to. And I will be happy to do that. And part of this Community Health Network, we are supporting the caregivers who are supporting those who are fighting to heal and recover from COVID-19. We are this fund, the Greatest Caregivers Need Fund, is something that you can support by going to the link that came through on Nightbot. It has a longer conversation in it about the details of it. You can, for $6.50, it's one on-site meal. For $28, it's one take-home meal kit. And for $37, it's one snack hub for 25 caregivers in their break room. It's also going to help, this fund is also going to help with childcare and housing costs for the caregivers that are quarantined and are in need of assistance in that regard. They are, all of the caregivers who are quarantined are also still receiving their salary. That was not cut off from them, but there are additional hardships that come with all of that. So please, if you do have any funds to do so, go ahead and donate to them, and we would appreciate it. If you don't, feel free to call up some friends and follow any of the channels that are working with us. So if you follow here, Wandering DM, if you're not following already, any new followers to Wandering DM, The Opera Geek, or Fennicini, all week long, I will donate $3 on your behalf for each new follow, up to 35 new followers. I want to try and help celebrate these streamers who have opened their time, their wallets, and their hearts to our caregivers. I understand that these streams do bring in a little bit of money for everybody, regardless of their size. So them using their platforms, I know also affects their bank accounts, and I appreciate that. So if we can give them more followers through this process, I would be happy to support that as well. All right. So at this point, I think we're going to take a midway break. And when I come back in, we'll say 15 minutes. No, 10 minutes. 5 till. I'll be back at 5 till. And when I come back, we will give away our red Cyberpunk cards that Jimenez used on our finale, and that Hawk used last season as well. 2 characters from our Cyberpunk Red campaign right here on Wandering DM. And you can see the Cyberpunk inspired cards there. And we'll be back shortly. Thank you for hanging out with me. And we will see you all in a little bit. All right, we're back. So, we've got a handful of viewers that I see out there. How many of you have played Cyberpunk by Artel Games in any of their iterations? Simon, I know you have. Wasa, have you had a chance to check that out yet? If you're still in the audience. Pardon me while I snack on something. Oh. Yes, you do. There you go. Thank you for the resub. They're burning through the rain. Jinx is on Fridays on Cyberpunk Red with myself, run by Simon on this channel. So we have a handful of people that are familiar. Well, Cyberpunk is a Artel Saurian game. We run it on Friday evenings, Eastern. Oh, thank you, Weeble Spleen, for the new subscription. Weeble Spleen is another member of the Community Health Network family who was streaming on Monday for this same charity cause, racking up some awareness and some money. So thank you very much. So we have a giveaway here for our Cyberpunk deck of cards used on Season 1 of the Strandager Haus. Twice, actually. Once was for an NPC named Hawk, who, and the other was, Jimenez, played by Anino, at Anino Gaming, one of our players. And, it would be lovely to have you if you can make it to see the game on Fridays there, Wasa. But yeah, we have these to give away. And what I'm going to do is, the giveaway here is exclamation point red. Thanks for stopping by and saying hi. Happy to do it. Happy to stream. Simon is the magnanimous one here, committing every stream this week to the cause. So I am just one cog in that machine. So we will be back on tomorrow. It is Dragon Age, run by Cypher of Tyr. And Simon plays in that. Kelly, the opera geek, plays in that. Deirdre Donlon plays in that. I'm missing some. Who am I missing? Goodness gracious. I can see his face. I'm missing the name. Where are we? Come back to me. Promo. There we are. Oh, two people. Eugenio, DM Jazzy Hands, and Andrew, special guest. So yeah, that's tomorrow, and then Friday is our Cyberpunk Red game that we've talked about a bit. So for the giveaway of the red Cyberpunk cards in honor of our Cyberpunk Red campaign, exclamation point red is going to be the code there. Feel free to jump in if that is something that you are interested in. They are made by Elephant Cards. And they had some good fortunes. Some good fortunes for Jimenez in our finale. Talking about a new champion, potentially. And then we had Hawk that came in for a new purpose. And a new direction in life. And that was a lot of fun with Salmon playing Hawk. And that was a couple of things that went on there. And then we had a, let's see here. I don't know, it was what? I think it was a 8 or 10 session run of the Strandager House for our first season, where we highlighted creators, smaller creators, and the projects that they're a part of. Really tried to bring some awareness and have some fun through telling fortunes for the characters from their games. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how do we put what we talked about in practice. How do we take that engagement piece and actually make it happen? So one of the things that we did talk about a little bit, and this is one of the easy spots in my opinion to work it in, is connections, especially party connections. That seems to be an area where a lot of games struggle, and you can increase that through your session zero. Session zero can take many forms, but one of the things that I talked about for player-to-player connections, the ways that you can foster those, you can't control them, but you can foster them, is shared experiences, shared motivations, shared beliefs, shared goals. Beliefs are going to be the hardest one to line up, so usually I leave that one out if it's me, but I would definitely point out the ones that people have in common if we do find them through our, delving into session zero. However, and it's not a big however, but it is a however, you can get closer to it with goals, because everybody has some sort of future goal. So a little bit of behind the scenes for the game Omens Rising that I'm working on. Our session zero has a built-in mechanic that taps into, in its current draft, a shared past experience. Now, it doesn't have to be the exact same experience. So think about a time when you're getting to know friends and you're sharing stories from your past. Maybe they're fairly new friends. Maybe they're people that you've known online, but now you get a chance to see them at a convention. Oh, conventions, if they'll ever come back again. But you get a chance to actually see them face to face, and you're sharing a meal or you're sharing a beer or whatever it is that you're doing. You're sharing time with them, and you're talking about stories. And you're saying, yeah, hey, I had this time where this happened. And somebody goes, hey, I had something similar happen to me in this situation. Those kinds of experiences matter to bonding people. Shared experiences is one of the easy ways that we can create bonds. You can do that with characters and get players to bond their characters to one another by tapping into that natural inclination that we already have. So start that discussion in some way, shape, or form. You can create a mechanic for it if you want to, where there's some sort of randomizer. You can just make it a free-form discussion. You can have questions or prompts that you ask them. And then you just let them tie the threads together, but give them instruction to find something. It doesn't have to be identical, and people can have whatever sort of, freedom that they need. And then with motivations, like what brings them to this place, so they're not just 5 strangers in a bar trying to figure out why is it that we're going to go on this adventure together? Why is it that we're going to even care about one another? We can adjust to that situation by, instead of focusing on where they're going, focus on what brought them to where they are. And by doing that, you can tap into the motivations of the character, and by tapping into those motivations of that character, and then having each of them talk about it and look for commonalities. One of the things that I think serves GMs really well is the ability to synthesize the information in front of them. and to see connections and to draw connections between them. And as these discussions are going on, here's the brilliant part of it, in my opinion, because I love character-driven plots and I love playing in games that have character-driven plots. As they're having those discussions, you get to take notes. You get to find out what are the things that make these characters tick, and then you can weave that into the plot to build even more player engagement down the road. You get to answer those questions about why is that lizard folk in Waterdeep rather than Schult? Why is the Jimenez, the wrestler from the East Coast in Night City? Why is whatever it might be? Why did they show up? And then you find the similarities, the things that bond their motivations. And it could be as simple as everybody's looking for a place to call home. It could be as simple as, or I shouldn't say simple, as far-reaching as that, as deep and personal as that. It could be as simple as everybody's motivated to be here because they want a better life. If anybody says money, shift that to something that's more like a better life. They want to be able to afford more things. They want a better quality of life because that's more relatable than just money. And that's where the reframing comes in. And then the last one is goals. Find out what their future goals are and find a way to make connections. You don't have to know all their future goals. You're not asking them for one future goal that is the end-all be-all for them. If they get super hyper-focused on one goal, that's when you might have some schisms in the party as to where they're headed. That's much more along the lines of belief. When you're looking for goals in general, you want to be like, okay, what's a common goal that we all can strive for? And the one thing about goals is that they need to be tangible. So you want to create either a short-term and long-term goal is what some people do, or you want to create tangible steps that they can see that will lead toward that goal. And by doing that, that ties back into that mastery piece, that tangible progress. They're going to find themselves being able to count how far they've come and how far they've gotten. And that will motivate them because that is human behavior. That is not... that's not a trick. That's not, some sort of gimmick. It's not bribery. It's not extrinsic. You're tapping into the intrinsic things that people gravitate toward. And it's not manipulation when you're doing it to bring the best out of them. When you're doing it to enhance their experience by giving them the best experience possible and tailoring it to them. Hello. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your presence here in chat. Oh, Fernando. Yes. I recognize the last name. I didn't recognize the first part of it. Yes, Fernando. Welcome. And we had a winner, and I forgot to announce it, for our Cyberpunk Red cards. That is Burn Through the Rain, who won our Cyberpunk Red cards. And we will get those in the mail. Thank you for joining, Fernando. As a recap, we are raising money for... the Community Health Network caregivers, frontline caregivers. They are working tirelessly right now with the COVID-19 response. And you can donate at that link if you so choose. If you're not in a position to give right now, don't worry. Feel free to, if you're not already following the Wandering DM or the Opera Geek or Fennicini, feel free to follow all three of them or any one of them. And for each new follow that each channel gets, I am donating $3 on y'all's behalf because I know times are tough and sometimes wallets are tight. So if you still want to do some good, let's bring some more awareness, some more eyes to these wonderful streamers and the things that they bring. The Opera Geek, Fennicini is the last one, and I will spell it in chat. Fennicini. Fettuccine is streaming on Friday. The Opera Geek is streaming right now, actually, along with Wandering DM. And Wandering DM is streaming all week long, and will be donating. Simon was gracious enough that all week the show proceeds from the shows are going to go to this fund. The fund is called the Greatest Caregiver Needs Fund. It is a fund established by Community Health Network Foundation to help caregivers with unexpected costs that come up where they are in need. And right now with the pandemic, that is an unexpected cost. There's a lot of them. It could be food related. It could be childcare. A lot of schools are closed. Childcare centers are closed. Could be housing, especially for those caregivers who are quarantined due to exposure. They may be not able to quarantine themselves off at their own house. And there are a number of programs out there to help defer the costs of housing at hotels. But this fund is also helping with that as well. So the big thing that we've talked a lot about here is the meals. For $6.50, that's all the size of donation that needs to be done, and you can provide one meal safely delivered to one of our frontline caregivers, so they don't have to worry about going and getting a meal or packing a lunch or whatever it is. So they have food on shift. And those of us that know medical professionals or have been in the medical field, we know how often they don't get a chance to actually feed themselves as they are focused. Hello, Prax. Thanks for being here. Lurking is always acceptable. For $28, it is a take-home meal that'll be prepared and ready to take home and cook, so they have one less thing to have to plan and worry about when they leave their shift. I know a lot of them have been putting in long hours, and it's just one small burden that we can lift from them. And then last but not least, $37 will pay for a snack bar in the break room for 25 caregivers to fuel them throughout their shift as needed. So we've got a variety of ways that we're trying to help. We also have matching funds. The first $1,100 that is donated through this process will be matched, so we can double our money there. And I already talked about the special promo I'm doing for new followers of Wandering DM, The Opera Geek, and Fettuccine. All three of which have graciously opened up their hearts, opened up their streams, and given of their time and the money that comes from that this week. So that's my way of saying thank you. So yeah, if you can shoot them a follow, they'll be tracking that and giving me the numbers. And for the first 35 new followers across those three streams, I will donate $3 per follow. So thank you. Thank you for hearing me out on that. All right, so we've got a few new people in chat. Do any of the new people in chat have looking for my deck of cards, have a character that has a burning question that the cards might be able to answer? Because that's what we do here at the Strandager House. We tell fortunes for fictional characters. And hopefully change the fate. As a recap of what you may have missed, we were going over player engagement theory. That was my nerdy bit from earlier. If you catch the VOD, you can see my overview of a variety of topics about player engagement. We focused on three core areas of player engagement. We focused on motivation, which is broken down in autonomy, mastery, and purpose. We talked about, now all of a sudden my brain is blanking again. Bring it back, Chris. There we go. Motivation, belonging, and hope. Motivation broken down into autonomy, mastery, and purpose. belonging broken down into connection, recognition, and trust, and hope focused in on optimism and belief. So, thank you. I found it interesting too. So, Fernando, are you playing in any games right now? Do you have a need to, or do any of your characters have any questions that are wondering in the back of their mind? I'd happily tell their fortune. Or for anyone that's in chat, do you have any questions about engaging your players or being a better engaged player? The different ways that what you can bring to the table to make sure that you are at your best, you're most engaged in the game. Because it's not as simple as show up prepared and put your phone down. Those are elements that can definitely play a role, but they themselves are not actually the cause. They are a action that's related to the cause of engagement, but not the engagement itself. So I'm taking all questions. Playing in one game right now, new DM, 2 new players, you and 1 experienced player. Still trying to figure out who the character is. You picked, gotcha, human, paladin, level 1, and okay, go. Okay, well, earlier for Simon, I did a spread that helps with creating a character a little bit more alive, a little bit more dynamic. Let me see if I can do something similar for you to get the pump primed and the juices going for your creativity. And we've got, whoa, another 9 of diamonds to start. A character coming from an abundance of wealth. Could be a paladin from a noble family. Maybe. Could be a different kind of wealth. Maybe it's not material wealth. Maybe it is wealth of knowledge. Maybe it is a wealth of social connections or friendship. Their way of recharging, the way in which they like to feel rejuvenated. The 6 is the path card. Path card is oftentimes connected to belief, connected to purpose. So, and then clubs is fiery. Clubs is passion. Clubs is creativity. But in this case, with a paladin, I'm saying we've got probably some sort of recharging you could go with, how they rejuvenate, refill their cup, being connected to their belief, refocusing on their purpose. Maybe it has to do with reciting certain prayers, reciting certain tenets, practicing something that is, something physical that is a representation of their beliefs. They're giving. Okay, 8. 8 is constancy. Spades, intellect, communication. When they give and receive, they prefer that they know that it is balanced, or that is a solid deal. No going back on it. They want something that's committed. So once they understand it, they're all in, kind of thing, is usually what that would represent, or something similar. Their bond. One of their closest friends and allies is going to be someone that shares that belief, that same path. And there is an emotional connection there. That could be deep friendship, that could be family, that could be mentor, that could be significant other, depending on how things play out. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the party. Could be an NPC. Could be someone from their past. Their community, though, there you go. We've got that passion again. There's something that they are passionate about. Their community surrounds a new person who is passionate about something that your character connects to. And that's how they identify their order, maybe. Maybe they have a new leader that's bringing a new fire, a new zest to where they're headed. And that path. Paths are in front of you everywhere with this character. Where they're headed is all connected to their purpose. This looks like a very purpose-driven paladin. And this one is in the land. So it doesn't necessarily have to be wealth. In this case, the purpose I would probably see here being something more outward. Something about the nation, the surrounding area, something, maybe a cleansing of the land if it's an oath of ancients, something of that nature. So those are some sparks, hopefully. They will help light a fire there for you, Fernando. And you can build off of any of those that you like. Throw any of them away that you don't. And Fernando playtested Omen's Rising for me, character generation. So Fernando kind of knows where that originated from and how that's kind of layered in there. It's got a lot more details in Omen's Rising, but that's kind of a general, quick, and MacGyvered way of using a similar concept. Give yourself some randomizers, give yourself some meaning, but make it something that connects to you. So, thank you, Fernando. I'm glad that you enjoyed the time. Wasa also has not only playtested, but she is part of the team to help build out the game of Omen's Rising. So, they are a engineer and a brilliant engineer from Australia. So we've gone international, and they are one of two. They're going to be do a lot of our Magitech elements. So if you like cool gadgets that are fueled by magic, Wasa and is one of our people who is going to be doing that for us. And I am very grateful to have them on the team. They are an amazing, amazing member of our team. So thank you, Wasa, for buying in and being a part of what we're doing. All right. With that, we're coming up on 10:30 here pretty shortly. So let's go ahead and we're going to give away our last set of dice. Our green and yellow swirling dice that I will go ahead and pour out here. And based on our little conversation there with, let's see if that little light helps a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Based on our conversation there with Fernando and the Paladin, we will go ahead and put in exclamation point Paladin to win a set of dice. Anyone and everyone is eligible. So definitely feel free to jump in. And we've got, let's see, 35 more minutes on the stream and one last giveaway before we finish up. And part of that, though, is going to be why we're here. So we're here to raise money. If you yourself are not in a position to give, we totally understand. Please follow the streamers that are promoting this charity, though, for us this week. That's the Opera Geek here, Wandering DM, and Simon, and then Fennicini. Find any of them or all of them. Follow the ones that you're not already following, and bring friends to follow all of them. Because for the first 35 new followers across the 3 streams, I'll donate $3 per new follower for in your name, because actions matter. So support those who support this charity, and I'm more than happy to celebrate that. Also, we do have matching funds up to $1,100 will be matched this week. You can give all the way through the end of the week. We have another stream tomorrow night on this channel, Dragon Age, DM'd by Cypher of Tyr. And on Friday, it's Cyberpunk Red. And both of those are also a part of this. And then also on Friday, Fennicini will be streaming. Feel free to check him out and let him know that I sent you his way. Say hello, drop him a follow, and we will add up those actions. So, thank you again for your time. Let's talk about another activity that we can do. So I talked about Session 0 and bonding characters together already through some of the things we talked about with player engagement. We talked a little bit about leveling progression and how we can build that stuff into your game. So people feel more competent by allowing them. Do I need any receipts for the matching? No, because, yeah, and so that's perfectly fine. Thank you for that. They're going to be tracking all of the ones that come through this week for that fund in particular. And basically, due to the reach of these streams, we've got a few different factors that'll be connected to it. So we're good to go. We've got people watching that. We're good to go, Simon. The other thing that people can do, if they want to go through the link, is they can also mention what stream they saw it on. And that would also be one way that we can filter it. But I've got a handful of people over at the foundation. My wife is part of that team. And Weeble Spleen, who subscribed to this channel tonight, is part of that team. And they'll be able to help sort through the ones that are new. And we'll be able to line that up with the matching. So we're good, Fernando. But I do appreciate that. And thank you for donating so much. We appreciate it. No, you don't have to. You don't have to. You're good to go. We'll be fine. So, thank you. The match, we will make sure that all of the funds get matched, even if it takes a little bit of extra effort on our part. So, it's been an interesting flash fundraiser, as I like to call it. Kind of like a flash mob, except you all come together and put it together really quickly. Not a lot of prep, but hopefully some coordination, and you entertain some folks for a good cause. So, I've stalled long enough, and Fernando, you are the winner of the dice set. Feel free to shoot me a message on Twitter. You have my account there at Chris Geary. Feel free to DM me there with an address where I can ship these two for you. Congratulations, and thank you so much, both for the donation and for spending some time with us tonight. That's honestly one of the good things. We've got some great people in here spending some time together, celebrating the work that others do in order to help our communities. And one of the ways that we can build stronger communities is by building stronger tables, by engaging the people at our tables and helping them feel seen, helping them feel heard, and creating stronger bonds through storytelling. It's one of the reasons why I love tabletop gaming. I am drawn to storytelling. I jokingly tell people that I am a storyteller raised by storytellers. It's not really a joke. I grew up in a family where after dinner, when all the adults gathered, they told stories, and us kids, we sat around and listened. And that was the entertainment after dinner. Now, it didn't mean that we didn't watch TV from time to time or do other things. That did happen. However, it was part of that community piece. That passing down of knowledge, of lore, of experience, of joy, of sorrow, of pain, of celebration, of triumph, of all those things through stories, through retellings, even big fish stories. It creates something special, something magical when we tap into them and we give them life and we give them honesty, sincerity, and authenticity. So That's some of the stuff that I look for in my own game design and in my own gameplay. I want to bring that to my players. I want them to have those experiences. I want to bring that to the fellow players that I play with. I want them to feel a part of the world, to feel like they belong. So, what are some of the ways that we can increase belonging within the game for the player? Is that sense of mastery. I know that's connected to motivation, but it's tied in directly to belonging as well, because recognition is part of that mastery. When we're recognized for our strengths, when we're able to live in our strengths, we are more motivated. It takes us less effort to do things. Honestly, there's just a variety of science out there that's super heckin' cool that you can go check out, that people have done related to engagement and motivation. And what we found, or what they found in these studies, is that people are not just more engaged, but they are happier, they're more productive, they're more attentive, they're more accurate, they're the best versions of themselves when others see the best in them. And by seeing the best in them, what they end up doing is they end up catering, or I shouldn't even say catering, putting these people, their managers, their bosses, their peers, put each other in positions where they get to use their best attributes, their strongest attributes. We can do that at the gaming table, both with the player and with the character. If you've got someone in the group that loves to do all the number crunching, make sure that they have time to shine. Give them puzzles that require that number crunching. Give them have things come up where it matters that those details have been tracked. Maybe as a group, maybe you decide that they're the ones that are gonna, watch over the party inventory. That was something that I found to be fairly effective early on in my career. Well, I shouldn't say career. Early on in my gaming experience, is having one person that kind of writes down all of the loot that's really not claimed or not being actively used onto like a party inventory list. It makes things a little bit easier to keep track of when you go to either share that when you have new players join. You can outfit them faster. You can use that for a variety of different things. But if they're that kind of person, like to track things, let them be that person. Let them shine. And the same goes for characters. But that recognition isn't just in what they do, it's also in something that's tangible that they can carry with them. Find out what those kinds of things are. Some people love having familiars that are that have some sort of quirk about them or has some sort of trait about them. They don't have to be super powerful, but make them unique. Make them, yes, they can have a name. Great, that's going to be great because that takes it one level. But give them something else, something that makes them feel like this is mine. This isn't just, the cat number 4 that I've now named, whatever. You want to have ways for people to really connect to things. If they train that familiar, if they work with that familiar, if they have the familiar do tasks for them, start building it in. So not off the generic, cereal shelf. Absolutely. You definitely want to make sure that there's something that makes them feel seen. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody has to be a special snowflake all the time. You do that, you're going to run yourself ragged with minutia. You're going to run yourself. You're gonna make it so nothing's special. If everything's special, nothing's special. But find the things that matter most. The things that show up as progression for them, that show up as recognition for them, and grab those elements, latch on to them, and turn them into items, people, connections, titles, whatever it might be, that have meaning for them. And you're going to find a completely different table. Obviously, we're not talking about one-shots here. One-shots are a completely different circumstance. And if you're a group of friends that have been around, played with each other for 854 years because you're actually all liches, then sure, you're going to know each other pretty well. But that still doesn't mean that we don't slip up in some of these areas. You can still benefit from some of this. So, be intentional, I guess, is my biggest thing when it comes to engaging the people at your table. Because if we're not intentional, we end up... sometimes we get lucky and we accidentally end up in these areas. But if we do something nice for someone and it's by accident, we can totally play it off. Sure, that it wasn't, a thought of. It just happened to work out. But when somebody knows that something was done because you thought of them, because you prioritized them, it changes the dynamic. And it doesn't have to be all sappy either. It can be pretty, straightforward. Be pretty simple in that regard. But that doesn't mean that it's not valued. So, anyway, recognition is not the same for everybody. So, anybody in chat? Anybody else in chat have a character that you are playing that needs their fortune told? Or has a question that maybe the cards can answer? Well, let me answer those. Or does anybody have any questions about player engagement theory that we talked about tonight? Building a stronger table through deeper connections. Simon, what you got for me? Thank you, Simon, for not letting me languish in silence forever as well. I appreciate that. While Simon is typing, remember that we are doing this for charity, and we're doing it all week long. So, CHNW. Oh, Fernando, I feel like recognition is something that varies a lot. Absolutely. Some people I've played with like having big grand ideas and moments and then being recognized for pulling off those awe-inspiring scenes. Absolutely. But you have to know what it is, what recognition matters to each person. Simon, go ahead and keep typing. I was talking to my current director one day, and we were talking about past experiences. We both have been in the leadership and employee engagement world. And he was telling me at one of his stops, he brought all the leaders together, and he gave them a list of, I think it was like 66 or 60 some odd different types of recognition. And he handed out all these sheets, and he told all of these leaders to take them back to all their people, make copies for each one of them, and have them choose their top 7. Because they'll prioritize all of them if they get to, but only their top 7. Maybe it was top 5. That sounds more logical. Probably top 5. And when they got it back and they saw what was selected by people, they had all the leaders. He had all the leaders come back, and they kind of looked at them together, and that's when it sunk in to all of these different leaders that recognition varies widely from person to person, and what they value in recognition, even if it's in the same category, might vary. So you really have to know your people. You have to know the players at the table. You have to know your friends, your family, whomever that you're trying to engage with, if you're going to give meaningful recognition. So that's an excellent point, Fernando. And lean into that. If everybody at the table knows that if some people, some of those players really want those big grandiose things, lean into it. But also make sure that you're not hiding the things that make you feel seen, that make you feel recognized. And so that way that can come out too. Simon, what happens if you have one player who would like to go against the group in a sort of betrayal, okay? With the player's knowledge of it in advance. I feel like it would still sting and lower player engagement towards games, including said player in the future. So I struggle with party betrayal. I'm going to put that out there right now. That is one of my hard limits. I can't do it. If it happens, it ruins everything for me. So if there's that consent, if all of the players have consented to it, to that being a dynamic that they're open to in the game, that goes back to that motivation piece, that first one, collaboration and consent. Then that's something that, will definitely be workable because people are going into it. However, there is going to be some level of emotional sting that happens. My recommendation is don't stop with the plot twist, the betrayal in that story arc. That story arc does not technically finish, not even until Revenge. It finishes after the characters have had time to grieve for that betrayal. Because there is a huge loss there. There's a loss of trust. There's a loss of friendship, possibly. There's a loss of a party member, maybe. There's a variety of different kinds of losses they're going to have to process. You're going to need to be intentional about how you guide that particular plot line to make sure that both the players and... Oh, no, that's fine. It's not about any of Simon's stream games. Nobody get paranoid. Nobody in any of the stream games are trying to backstab each other. Okay. Is that a good enough disclosure there? Yeah. No, I totally hear you, Simon, on that one. You have to, as the GM, it is your job, A, to make sure that everyone is consented to it. And B, I mean, that should be everyone's job. But, you have to double check with people and make sure, yes, this is something we all agreed to. And then B, you have to make space for healing, for grieving. If there's not space for that, you're going to have an emotional undercurrent that can turn into hurt feelings or grudges or things of that nature. It doesn't have to, but it can. So there has to be space for that. And I feel like the best GMs that I've worked with when this has happened, they make space for that, and they understand how to make space for that. It's not easy. It's not as simple as some sort of downloadable PDF that you can hand out to people. So it's going to be a lot of work for the GM as well to deal with that. It's not as simple as, hey, wouldn't it be cool if... So betrayal on purpose or betrayal because of a conflict. Two of the PC's two of the PC's goals. Yeah. Yeah, that's different. Fernando, absolutely. Oh. Yeah, I think we're talking here about betrayal on purpose. If it's a betrayal because of conflict of two differing goals, there's going to be choices that can be made already by the GM. Nothing has to necessarily be set in stone if you realize that it's going to cause some sort of horrific fallout to do so. So you don't have to make it an either or. Oh, yeah. That's better for an NPC than ever for a PC character, Simon. Anytime, it says, so Simon put into chat, it was a character hired to capture another party member, bring them back dead or alive. I understand that dynamic, bringing in someone and to infiltrate a group and then, betray them. Great. Make it an NPC. If that's going to be a plot point, fine. But that's a role for an NPC. That's not a role for a player character. Unless, of course, you're playing a game that's built on betrayal and backstabbing. And there are games that are built on that. And that is the intent of them. But then everybody's signing up for that kind of game. And that's kind of been discussed from the onset. So that might be maybe a little different there. So, yeah, but that's not a... Oof. That's a rough one. For sure. I have not had that one exactly happen, but I've heard stories like that fairly regularly. So we've got one last giveaway here in just a few minutes. It's our giveaway of death that I'm calling it. Our death cards. So at our Strandager Haus Season 1 premiere, we had two guests. Gabe James Games was one of them. When Gabe's character was a different style of character, fantasy style. Our second guest was Christine from Rockabilly Soap, and she played Philly. And Philly was this necromancer who was obsessed with her one true love, who kept killing himself to try and get away, and she'd just raise him and keep him with her. And so I called it my Neck Romantic deck. And it was actually in promotion for her, for a soap series, the Necromancer soap that she was putting out for Valentine's Day. So this is that deck that was done for that game. And then the other one, I call it the Other Death deck, because that one was actually from the podcast, or not the podcast, the episode when DM Steve joined us from Asians Represent, and he was reprising his character of Ning, who was from a society, or the setting they were in is a Chinese-inspired setting, and the number 4 kept popping up, and over and over again. And in that society, the number 4 is the number of death. And so, even though in cartomancy it's the number of balance, I leaned into that, and we ended up with a slightly different telling, and that would be this deck here of bicycle cards with Chinese dragons on them to represent the setting that they were in. So yeah, that'll be our last giveaway here. And so this giveaway, if you are interested in getting a 2-for-1, go ahead and put exclamation point death into chat, and you'll receive 2 decks of cards that have been used on Strandager Haus Season 1. as our final giveaway for the night. And while people are doing that, we have time for either one fortune or one question, or anything like that as we wrap up the evening. Whatever you are interested in. But remember, we're here to celebrate those who take care of all of us. Oh, we might get raiders. Oh, if we get raiders, we'll wait and make sure the raiders can get in on this if they want as well. So, somebody, quick, ask a question or give me a character that needs their fortune read so we can fill some time for these potential raiders who might want in on our death card giveaway. Yes, you're allowed to enter again, Wasa. You won dice before. You are welcome to enter a second time. That goes for anybody in chat. Opera Geek is coming. Excellent. Game Master's Vault, thank you for joining. Oh, Raiders from the Opera Geek, thank you so much for raiding. We will extend a few minutes, absolutely, to welcome in our raiders. For all of our raiders, I want you to know that we are here raising money for Community Health Network, the same as Kelly and her Queens of the Valley were raising for earlier. We are doing cartomancy readings for our reading for Gloss Titus. Human Evoker, one of my players. Okay. Excellent. We will go ahead and do a reading for Gloss. Is there some sort of circumstance? Oh, thank you, Yenna, for the bits. All of this goes to helping caregivers at the front. So tell me a little bit about Gloss. Are they facing any sort of conundrum that they want some clarity on? Are they between a rock and a hard place? And for the Raiders, just know that our last giveaway is 2 decks of cards that were used on Strandager House Season 1. I call them my death decks. One of them actually is death cards. It was used for the fortunes of Philly, who was played by Christine from Rockabilly Soap. They have fun death art on them, and they were part of a promotion for Rockabilly Soap's necromantic Valentine's series, the Necromancer Soap. It was quite lovely. And our Chinese dragon cards here were in honor of the China-inspired setting that Asians Represent is currently in when DM Steve came to visit and reprise his role as Ning from that podcast. And Ning kept having the 4 card show up, and 4 is the card of death. Or 4 is the number of death in that culture. So we've got a 2-for-1 for our last giveaway. Ignoring his backstory, actually. Something about his estranged father. Excellent. So let's find out what Gloss Titus and his estranged father and what happens because of that. Well, I guess ignoring it. So we're going to start with Gloss. And, Gloss is the red, represented by the red Joker. Gloss is driven and connected to fate. The estranged father, Queen. Queen is the card of nurturers. It is the card that brings out the best in us, that inspires growth. Clubs, the suit of fire, the suit of passion and creativity. This estranged father brought out and nurtured the passion in some group. And in order for Gloss to actually, if Gloss does choose to follow that path, the 5 card is a powerful card. 5 is the number of power in cartomancy. Diamonds are that of the earth, of wealth, of health and well-being. They will have a boost in something in that realm of health and well-being. It doesn't feel like wealth. I would say it's something about it will invigorate them in a very mighty way. And it will bring 8. 8 is the number of constancy. 8 brings in eternity, commitment, and the hearts is emotions, the suit of water. We have quite a path here where then the fires are restoked, more powerful once again. Gaius. Sorry, Gaius. I apologize. Yes, Gaius Titus, fated to find his father eventually. And if done successfully, if the father is still alive when he gets there, that father will nurture a passion within him, something that will bring him well-being, strength of body, strength in that world. And it will it will create a deep emotional connection that will be constant, and that will lead to a fire within him that is powerful, more powerful than before. It's kind of that path of nurturing from the beginning. So I don't know if that helps Game Master's Vault with Gaius or not, but maybe there's some seeds there to have a little bit of fun. Alrighty. So if you are interested in the death decks, go ahead and put exclamation death into chat, and we will go ahead and draw that here in a few minutes. And we talked about, for those of you raiders who are just joining us, we spent a chunk of time tonight in between our fortunes. What I think he needs more than nurturing is a good swift kick in the rear. Well, when someone is passionate, that nurturing comes in all sorts of forms. And fire does burn, remember? So a swift kick in the rear might be in the shape of being chased by a torch. There you go. That's one way for Dad to nurture. Absolutely. So yeah, we talked about player engagement and how to build stronger tables through connecting to our players and connecting to one another. We tapped into the concepts of motivation, belonging, and hope as how we motivate. Or not how we motivate, how we engage. And motivation, we broke down into autonomy, player agency built on consent and collaboration with a healthy respect. Mastery, which is not about perfection. It is about tangible progress, being able to see that progress and tap into it. And there you go. NyQuil, duct tape, and and a rock. There you go. Oh, you are a funny one there. That is one way to nurture. Mastery doesn't necessarily mean perfection. It does mean tangible progress, though, both in on the paper, on the character sheet, and in the way of your tangible results in game. Then belonging is connected to connection, recognition, and trust. We talked about how recognition has many different forms and how we need to find out what matters to our players when it comes to that recognition to get them to really build in or buy in to what's going on. And then last but not least is hope, and that's built through optimism and belief. Buying in that belief, they have to believe in what they're doing, believe in that game, believe in the theme, believe in the vision for what you have. If you want long-term engagement, you want someone that's going to sustain and not just show up because of social pressures or because they have nothing better to do or because they've always shown up, but because they really, truly are excited about being there. Because there's a difference between presence and engagement. And there's a difference between engagement and active engagement. So that was kind of our overview for the evening. And I think I have stalled long enough for people to get their exclamation points in. And I will go ahead and find myself a winner. And while we're doing that, why don't we talk a little bit about what we're doing? Community Health Network has a fund called the Greatest Caregiver Needs Fund, and it is set up to help out caregivers who are finding themselves in some sort of unexpected financial circumstance. We have a fund set up that will help them with childcare, housing if they're being quarantined and cannot safely quarantine at home, as well as meals delivered to them while working, or take-home meals that they can take with them so they have one less thing to worry about at home. And yes, a drum roll, as you had mentioned there, Fernando. The winner is Crazy Yenna. Thank you, Crazy Yenna, for both the bits and for participating in the giveaway. Crazy Yenna, you can find me on Discord, or you might be able to find me on Twitter. I don't know if you follow me or not. It's at Chris Geary. DM me either place or here on Twitch with an address in which I can send those 2 decks of cards to. And make sure that you too can have a lot of fun. Thank you, Raiders, for showing up. I know it was the tail end, but I hope you got a little taste of what the Strandager House kind of did with our fortune for Gaius there. We were uplifting other creators all season long, and we are going to call it a night. Thank you so much again for everything, for your time, your attention, and for all that you've given, because I know you came from another stream that was a part of this. Do remember that if you don't have money to give right now, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to follow at the Opera Geek if you are not following her channel on Twitch, or follow Wandering DM or Fennicini, who will be streaming on Friday for us. For the first 35 new followers across those 3 streams, I will give... Oh, thank you, Yen. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I will give $3. So for the first 35 followers, $3 per follow. For those of you that don't have the money right now, bring your friends, have them follow. Whatever it is, we want to maximize it. We also have $1,100 in matching funds for this week. So anytime this week, feel free to donate at that link. In the comments. You could also mention the stream in which you saw it on, and that way we can kind of track it as well. And we do appreciate all your time and attention. You all are lovely. Have a wonderful evening, and may fortune smile upon you.